Hello and welcome to the All 12 Signs video series for Saturn Retrograde in Pisces. My name's Chloe. I work with card divination, astrology, and I channel energies through my body. It's just one of the ways that I channel. This is independent of my conscious thought. As you can see, my hands are moving around right now. This is channeling energies from different dimensions to help us heal, help us clear stuck energy, and open up portals so messages can download into our soul and help us align with our soul's purpose. Right, I will be reading for Scorpio and Libra in this video. So I've already done 2 parts already. I recommend checking out the introductions for each of the parts of this series because I break down Saturn in retrograde, what it means to the collective, what the sort of retrograde energy is all about, and I'll be doing different themes in each of the introductions. I've also done a Saturn just in general in Pisces video, and all again that series as well. Every introduction, I break down the combination of Saturn and Neptune together, what it means, that the fact that Saturn's in a Jupiter-ruled sign, lots of different things that just help you understand like the nuances of what this transit for the next 2.5 years is affecting you. I work with the whole house system. This is based off the Greco-Roman period, the Hellenistic principles over 2,000 years ago. And what does that mean? That means each sign falls in the whole of a house. I recommend you check out, for those of you who know your time of birth, your rising sign. This is where it falls in the first house, where your ascendant is. The astrology that I'll be talking about will link into those of you who have that as a rising sign. This doesn't invalidate you looking at any other sign. We have all the signs of the zodiac in our chart, whether that's your sun, your moon, or your Saturn in particular for this transit. Look to where the sign falls in your chart, look to the house that it's in, the themes of that house, and apply those themes to the messages that come through. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. It's kind of as if that sign has now moved to the first house. Thank you all for being here, new and returning viewers alike. It means a lot to me. I appreciate everyone's time and energy is sacred, and I value the energy exchange that happens by doing these videos. So it means a lot to me, and I love reading for you all. What else did I want to say? Oh, so in these videos, in the collective videos, I focus on the inner work. It's part of my main practice. Rather than focusing on the exterior world or relationships or work situations, those things that may come up in a sort of more personal reading. If you want a personal reading, a natal chart, tarot combination, do check out my description box where my email address is, and I will get back to you. I tend to tailor to the client, but in general, in these collective readings, I focus on you, the inner work. What energies are showing up for you that you're working with, sort of getting you a hint of understanding of what you're going to process and what's clearing out and what's emerging the other side. Why do I focus on the inner work? Well, the world is crazy right now in every single direction, and it can be very incredibly overwhelming, that we feel frustrated, like how can we help change, how can we help evolve and grow in a direction that facilitates all of us. That can be a very overburdened experience. When we focus on our inner space, when we question the world around us, the people around us, and most importantly, when you question yourself, so the root of it is questioning yourself, peeling back the trauma responses, the limiting beliefs, and getting more in alignment with your soul's frequency. And when we do this, when we integrate this energy, we're not shaming and blaming parts of us, we're just in observation with kindness and empathy, but we're also real with ourselves. This is when our frequency begins to shift and more in alignment. So if you imagine those trauma responses and limiting beliefs are the soul expression, our intuition is having to sort of navigate this maze, this labyrinth, before coming out. And that's usually helping us. The reason why that, situations come up that trigger us and trigger those trauma responses are in order for us to look at that and unravel that particular part of the labyrinth. So the more that we are intentional with that, the more that we're working with it, and getting to understand the root of who we are, the more our frequency is in alignment with our soul's energy. And so we then start drawing situations and environments towards us that are more in alignment with that. Also by being very real and questioning ourselves. And then through that, we gain a sense of confidence of what's really fundamentally important to you in the long term. It gets rid of the superfluous energy of, even if triggering responses or drama or frustration comes up, you're not necessarily knocked off your perch, and you're able to weather a storm that seems like a storm but might actually be leading you to a different path that's in more alignment. So sometimes we don't understand the full picture, and by truly knowing the root of who we are, we're able just to be in flow with what comes around us. So really helping you ground you. This is why I want to do these readings with the astrology and tarot, to bring as much information for us in order to be able to make informed, autonomous decisions about how we're observing this energy, and then how we're using it, and begin to co-create rather than be governed by it. Okay, right. So in this introduction, I don't think it's going to be that long, but I'm going to talk about water and a devotion to Saturn. So I'm recording this on Saturday. Saturday is Saturn's day. So this is a great day to just sit with the energy of Saturn, even if you don't know what that might mean. Just by holding space and acknowledging that you want to draw that energy in a sense of stillness and quiet. That's when ideas and little eureka moments can pop up, sort of an honoring of that energy. Yes, Saturn can be the school of hard knocks, but it's actually facilitating, strengthening our foundations, and facilitating our legacy when we work with our own inner integrity. So Saturdays are a great day to question and wonder what it is, what actions can you take that serve the core principles within you that are going to be lasting in the long term. So it's not necessarily about the details of your legacy, but understanding the principles behind it. So it might be good to sort of, so Saturn's in Pisces, so tapping into water, having baths, having that containment, that boundary of the bath in the ocean of the water that you're in. A salt bath as well is very good, the sense of cleansing and purifying and releasing, and just being allowing for stillness as well. So the reason why I'm focusing on stillness is because Saturn is in a water sign, and the ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, is over in an earth sign. These are both yin, night in nature. There's a slowness, they are bound by gravity. So we are being called to slow down. We are being called to be mindful. They are not in air or fire signs where it's all go, 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 go. This is a time of reflection, of observation, and just allowing yourself to be still in moments and seeing what comes through could be a really wonderful practice. Also, because Jupiter is in Taurus, it's definitely found my own, check out the Jupiter transit video as well, because that will give you an understanding of what Jupiter's doing and how that's impacting Saturn. The Jupiter wisdom, elevation of finding inner wisdom by being out in nature, and just maybe asking a question and then sort of loosening your mind, softening your mind, and not focusing on the answer and seeing what comes up can be a really great time during this very reflective space, because Saturn is a retrograde. Saturn will potentially have put up roadblocks along the way while it was direct, as well as sort of giving us a sense of authority wherever it falls in our chart. And now, you may have felt a bit blocked. And now we're having more understanding of what those roadblocks, those limitations are, and we're now being given the space to go over and revisit and really focus and get to the details of what those roadblocks have made us feel, what those roadblocks have impacted on situations that may have felt frustrating, but actually they've helped you question what your legacy is, where your structures are. So that's Saturn really likes black crystals. It is the darkest visible planet to the naked eye, and so smoky quartz or obsidian, just darker crystals that if you have them, I'm not saying you need them in order to bring in Saturn, but certainly if you're doing a little devotional work to Saturn, that can be something that you bring in when you're meditating, writing down keywords linked into how you see your integrity, how you see your inner authority. Saturn's is about authority, and it's about harnessing and figuring out what's important to us. It's not about diminishing other people's authority in order to feel power. So yeah, being in contemplation of your legacy as well can be a really good thing to do on a Saturday. Sacrificing, do due diligence, maybe doing housework or doing a task that may feel like hard work, but you know you need to do it because it's actually going to facilitate something else. That can be a really wonderful thing to do on a Saturday. I know Saturdays for a lot of you are a weekend. This is when you're having fun, but just maybe spending a short amount of time where you do a particular task that you know there's a weight, there's a responsibility behind it, that you're able to just tick that off and offer it up to Saturn. As saying, hello, thank you, I appreciate your energy. I've talked in previous introductions, like when I look at charts, not just in personal clients, but of sort of famous people, because it helps us, we have an understanding of the trajectory of the legacy of them. And Saturn across the board is one of the main key planets that is fulfilling that legacy, that is really grounding that down. Saturn's about cause and effect. So spending time in meditation, being mindful of actions that you've taken and observing what those effects are, and spending time connecting to that can be a great thing to do in devotion. What else? I've written down photos of oceans. So Pisces, very much the unconscious emotional ocean of the universe here. And so having photos of oceans may help, again, with a darker crystal. You don't have to do any of this. This is just suggestions, but may help bring in that energy, welcome it in. I always remember, like, when I talk about all this stuff with people who aren't really engaged in this side of reality, they're like, well, how do you connect to it? How do you engage with it? Now, I always say just hold space. Just open the door and say you're welcome. You don't even have to know or understand what that might look like, how that may feel. It's not about having a set perimeters that define your interaction with these energies, with the creator energy, but it's simply about saying, I am bearing witness to you, whatever this may be. And the more that you sort of practice that, the more they'll respond. You were thinking about the observer effect in the quantum field as well. That's when things start defining themselves in whatever possible outcome they may have. Saturn retrograde is a great time to look to your addictions. It's a great time to spend time with your mental health issues, if you have any. I mean, I think we all do collectively, and just being in observation of them, perhaps figuring out how you might want to unravel those things, which habits you might, Saturn days on Saturdays are a really good day to because Saturn represents limitations and boundaries, of putting up boundaries around habits that maybe don't serve you and may have an impact on your mental health. So it's a really productive day to set that intention. This has come up in every single collective reading that I've done on Saturn. Page of Pentacles. This is a mixture of both heralding in a new way of engaging with our 3D reality, as well as finding messages in nature, in our 3D reality, in Earth, because remember, Jupiter is in Taurus, that it helps bring in messages. I love that the Page of Pentacles has repeatedly come up, because it's really implying that, the pages are very youthful energy, they're very excited, it's kind of the apprentice energy. So again, starting something new, starting something afresh, having gone over this revision in the retrograde. Water. I really want to talk about water. So water is one of the strangest things in the universe. It goes against a lot of common ideas of how our universe works. But I particularly want to talk about, because we've got Jupiter in Taurus now, so how our physical senses connect to our 3D realm. A lot of our water systems are are not in a good place, especially if we're working with energies especially when you think about how water that comes from a tap has gone against its nature. So water likes to come from undulating spaces. There's nature has very few straight lines at its formation. That water is goes and curves and moves and flows. There is that sense of roundness there. That when water comes through our filtration systems, it's then going through all these pipes, and it's sort of blocking and shutting down the energy within it. So on an energetic level, it's can be I'm thinking of the work of Dr. Emoto. I will put a link to his experiments in the description box. So essentially he believes that human consciousness can affect water. Water is amazing. Water holds more memory than a quantum computer. Like, it is just a phenomenon, and I really feel that that's where our computer systems will be headed. We'll be harnessing the element of water. You think we are what percent? I'm going to pause and figure out the percentage. Okay, so I wanted to get up the percentages for the human being and water, and overall it looks like we're about 66% water. Our bones have 22% water. Our muscles have 76% water. Our blood is 83% water. Lungs are 90% water. And our brains are 95% water. So Dr. Emoto did studies with water, where he projected music onto water. He got people to speak to the water certain emotions, or think certain emotions to water. And the water crystallizes in different ways depending on the emotional environment. So so when they projected hate or sort of more negative emotions onto water, the water wouldn't form structures. It was very discordant chaos structures. And when they projected love or hope or peace or all of those things, they would form beautiful snowflakes, just pure, like just absolutely stunning to look at. So something that you can do with water And if we think about it, the way that we talk to ourselves is having an impact on the water within us. It holds memory. We think about all the trauma responses that we've had, the things that people have told us, the emotions that have been put into our emotional body that get stuck there, that practices of obviously speaking kindly to yourself, listening to frequencies like the frequency of Om can really help clear that energy. But also I'm really wanting to focus on your drinking water. So sometimes, it can be a little bit difficult to talk well to ourselves. But a practice that I have is I've got lots of jars, big sort of like 1 litre and a half jars, mason jars. And because the tap water in London's terrible, that I put the water into jars and let it sit for over 24 hours. And this helps release the chlorine. Okay, so that's more of a sort of the physical reality and of what's in our water. And I've got these charcoal sticks. Again, I wanted to bring that in because Jupiter is in an earth sign. So bringing in the earth to the water of these charcoal sticks, they may be slightly expensive, but they last 6 months and they filter out a lot of the things in water that don't do us a disservice. But I also put crystals in there and put them in a formation. I've got a fair amount of altars around the house. I put them near altars. But things that you can do is just sit with the water for a couple of minutes or so in meditation, send it love, imprint that space of universal love and healing into your water. And these are I appreciate these things take time and they're mindful, but Saturn is all about doing the hard work, doing all those steps in order to realize that that's going to facilitate you in the long term. And I certainly notice a difference when I go and drink tap water elsewhere where they haven't been filtered or they haven't been in a space of where they are being given energy. And then that energy, that emotion is then imprinted into that water, and that's what you're drinking. So water is water of life. It's this healing phenomenon that it has the capacity to transform internally, right? That 95% of our brain, so the water that we're ingesting, the water that we have in our bodies are constantly being bombarded by energies from the outside world. And, you know, making time to put a little bit more effort into how we treat our water, how we treat the water in our bodies, can just really facilitate the mindfulness and the responsibility and duty that Saturn really does call us to tap into. What was I going to say? There was something on the tip of my tongue. Oh, that's it. Tears. Somebody did a study. I don't know. I can't remember if it's Dr. Emoto or not. That somebody did a study linked into putting tears under a microscope, and they, again, in the same way that the water in the study of Dr. Emoto did, that they formed in different ways depending on what kind of emotion that you're having. And I watched The Way of Water the other day. When I tap into my emotions, they go full blown rage, despair. I want to burn everything to the ground. I'm so fucking sorry for swearing, guys. I do try not to. I'm British. This is actually just a part of our framework. I'm so heartbroken and disappointed. And it was when they were hunting a particular animal. I don't want to spoil it. That I was thinking, because it was just off the bat of having done research into what's going on in the ocean in terms of Saturn, and this transit, this retrograde, of the abject pain that I felt around the destruction of what I was just thinking about the whale culture and the how we wiped out so many of the whales and how wonderful it is that they're coming back. But the rage that I felt, the tears that I have that were streaming down my face, were tight and sharp. There was just this pure, unadulterated fury and pain, and like just the anguish of the destruction and the loss, and for what cause, what end result. You know, if you think about, it's not that I mean, I'm vegetarian. I try and be vegan, but ice cream gets in the way of that. I mean, we've all got our faults, and it's not me saying everyone should stop eating meat. It's in no way a judgment, but just being a bit more mindful of how we engage with other life forms, I think is fundamental. Like there's this honoring and respecting. But I'm the kind of person that moves snails in the road. If there's a bug on me, like there's little fruit flies around at the moment because it's summer, and if one lands on me, I'm always trying to move them, just because I'm scared I'm going to kill them, and I would try and put them in a right space, even though it's just a tiny little bug. But try and be mindful of those things. I'm not saying, I'm in no judgment to anybody who doesn't do that. I realize I'm a ridiculous human being. Excuse me. But it's very much about that being, sorry, back to the tears, that acknowledgement, that release of that rage then leaves your body. So cry when you need to. We bottle so much things up, and it's not about falling into the pit of despair and never getting out again. It's about honoring the emotion and letting it pass through you. I try now to never ever stop my tears coming out. Like that emotion that would be stuck in your body is getting released through your tears. I just watched a video today, and I learned about a couple of weeks ago about how turtles' tears, I'm going to pause again. Annoyingly, I can't find it, but turtles, basically they're constantly crying, and so their energy is feeding back into the ocean. I don't know what I was talking about. Sorry, I just paused for a little while to try and find just how many gallons of tears that they produce into the ocean. Where was I? I've lost my track of thought. Goodness me. I apologize, guys. I was probably, releasing of tears. Releasing tears back into the cosmic ocean, energetically, letting it be cleansed and cleaned in that salt water, and being able to just let it move through you rather than getting consumed. So it's very important. So many of us repress our tears and let that build up, and as I said, that energy gets stuck within us. So Saturn moving through the collective unconscious emotional body of Pisces is helping us clear out a lot of karmic contracts, a lot of deep-rooted collective traumas that we have within us. The human body has the capacity to heal in a phenomenal way, and the more that we tap into our perhaps our individual experience of what emotions are feeling, if we get to the root and understanding like those core principles of like the archetypes of where that emotion comes from, that we can help release that into the collective unconscious and help clean and wash that away. You know, that salt purifies that emotion. So what was I saying? Yes, so taking care of your water, being mindful to it. You can sing to it as well. I've certainly done practices of singing to water, and I've seen the water shift and change. It's almost like it gets like a little halo around the top of it. It sort of gets rounder and more embodied. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. Putting the water in the sunlight, especially with the crystals. Don't put fluorite. That's the main one that I know, that if you put fluorite into your water, it's a soft crystal, so it will, something about it means that it starts to dissolve into the water. Check on the internet if you're planning on putting crystals into something, about whether that's a good idea or not, because I know there's a few that aren't. Shunganite is an amazing thing to put in your water and help add to the filtration system, and just helps you, gives you a cleanse, you know, clear out the system, clear out your emotional body. So interesting that only the Page of Pentacles has come up. Like, yeah, taking mindful practices about of water. Do some research on water. It is an absolutely phenomenal thing, and I know there's lots of new discoveries coming about the energetic principles of water, and you know, the fact that it holds all that memory and how we have trauma in our bodies, and how so much of our bodies are made up of water. Interestingly, I don't think they listed the heart in the percentage, or they might have done and I've completely forgotten. But so fascinating that the mind is 95% water. So facilitating healthy water can bring about a healthy mind. Okay, I think that might be everything that I want to say. This is just very funny that we've just got the Page of Pentacles, this sense of freshness and renewal in the way that we engage in the 3D world, and watching the 3D world bring us messages as well. Yeah, tend to the joy within your heart as well. Saturn can be heavy, but it's in the sign of Jupiter and Venus, so it's two of the benefics. The two benefics are sort of looking after Saturn at this time, of saying, hey buddy, you can just chill out a bit. We're gonna work a bit of magic, and things are going to be a bit more in flow, and help you cleanse yourself as well. Every time signs move through the final sign of Pisces, they're about to start a new journey, so we're really clearing out a longer cycle with this Saturn transit, and this first retrograde is helping us understand what's showing up for this particular cycle. Okay, as I said, I'm going to be reading for Scorpio and Libra. Be good to yourselves, be good to those around you, and most importantly, be well until we meet again. Scorpio rising. How you doing, Scorpio? For those of you just tapping into the Scorpio energy, look to where it falls in your chart, the house that it's in, the themes of that house, and apply those themes to the messages that come through. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. In general, regardless of whether you're a Scorpio rising or not, Saturn in Pisces trines your Scorpio energy. Trines are an aspect of Jupiter. They want to bring elevation, inspiration, a sense of cohesion. It's a free-flowing energy. They're the same element, so they've got something in common, which means the information is able to, you're not necessarily having to cover the bases of how it is that you communicate, because it's both water signs. There's a sense of wisdom with a trine, and through that expansion and perhaps opportunities and luck comes through for this transit wherever Scorpio and Pisces fall in your chart. And for Scorpio rising, though, this Pisces energy and Saturn retrograde is in your 5th house. This is the house of creation energy. This is the house of joy. This is where we get our fun, our amusement, our play. It's linked into games, children, romance, pleasure, short-term relationships, romantic relationships. relationships. But I always like to focus on that creation energy, because everything that I've just spoken about comes from that. So anything that you do, you kind of birth out into the world, right? Like children. And with that fifth house, this is the thing that gives us a spring in our step. This is the thing that motivates and drives us and helps us feel alive, you know, that pure energy of creation. And so Saturn's been moving through here since March, and now we've got Saturn retrograde. So I'm going to be pulling cards for 3 different parts of the journey. The first pile will be what we've sort of been working through with the direct motion. The second part is the retrograde itself, and then the third part is how this energy is moving forward. So even though Saturn's been in Pisces since March, it's been in shadow phase, right? So even though it's gone direct, it went retrograde on the 12th of June and will go direct on the 4th of November. All the dates are in the description box. If you, because I know it's a lot of information, but it went into shadow phase on the 11th of March. So it's a good chunk. So the retrograde is going over 7 degrees and 12 minutes to 0 degrees and 30 minutes. So it went half a degree before it then went into shadow phase. Shadow phase is the degrees that the planet will then go retrograde. So this can often give us clues and understanding of where the retrograde's headed. It can be louder than the retrograde itself. It all depends on your chart. So we've been working with this retrograde energy basically since the 11th of March. So there's a sense of things that come up might not be that much of a surprise. I mean, it all depends. You know, some things may be completely left field. That we've, with Saturn moving into Pisces, a sense of a mixture of finding your own authority. That's what Saturn really wants you to do, is by testing your foundations, putting up roadblocks, putting up limitations, and make you question things, make you put in the hard work, make you realize that the effort is worth it. Saturn can, with this retrograde, can often test your commitment to your legacy. So you may be frustrated by these limitations and delays, and Saturn's coming along saying, hey, are you going to walk your talk? Is this something that you just say you want to do, or is this for the long term? Is this deeply, truly, fundamentally important to you in order to facilitate your legacy? So this retrograde is going to come along, and we're going to be able to, having gone through those limitations and roadblocks, now we've got a bit more of understanding of what they may mean. We're now unpacking them and unraveling them, clearing out karmic contracts as well that put up those roadblocks. You know, I talked in the introduction, our limiting beliefs and trauma responses are still our karmic contracts. They're still things that, in my personal opinion, our souls have signed up for in order to transmute and break the cycles. Saturn in the 12th house, not the 12th house, the 12th sign, I apologize. This is a time of breaking those cycles for the long term. This is an understanding of the cause and effect of why those cycles have turned up, and being able to be mindful and in observation with a sense of there's a structure to Saturn, and being in Pisces, which is very boundlessness, that Saturn's coming along and helping us find that structure in the vast expanse of the ocean, that very very magical and mystical space that Pisces can embody, so Saturn with this retrograde is giving us a chance to sit with these things, be an observation of how we respond to them. This might be where we're able to, as I said in the introduction, impact habits and trauma responses that we may have, that may have blocked your creative energy. You might have felt with Saturn moving into the 5th, more responsibility, more weight around what brings you joy. So that might have felt like a limitation and a restriction around the fun house. But all of this is really, look, it's a longer transit. It's about 2.5 years. That once you come out of this other side of it, you know your foundations in how you express your creative energy are going to be a lot stronger, even if there might be difficulties that have come up. Some of you may not be finding difficulties, but I'm just stressing that's a possibility. It's not going to be the same as when Saturn was in Aquarius or Capricorn, because it rules those signs. We're dealing with Jupiter, right? Jupiter's a yes planet. Jupiter wants us to expand, not contract. impact. So we've got this jolly, generous energy of Jupiter and the harmonizing love of Venus impacting Saturn. That there's just a little more flow and ease of us understanding. Doesn't mean that there aren't limitations and blockages, but we're able to unpack them with a little bit more empathy and compassion of why we are where we are. So in the 5th house, what can this look like? Having more responsibility in how you express yourself creatively. So you may have felt a sort of a disconnect from that, a feeling of a burden. Saturn can be heavy. It's linked into lead, a weight around this area of your chart. You may have been questioning your own authority when it comes to your expression of how you engage with your creation energy, as well as feeling probably maybe empowered about how that expression wants to manifest. Like the sense of what do I want to say? So for some of you, it may be feeling feeling value and integrity in the way that you express yourself. In a creative way. Someone may come into your life that feels like a commitment in terms of romance and short-term dating, or it may be bringing up trauma responses around those dynamics, right? Around how you feel pleasure, how you feel romance, and however that manifests, because it's not just linked into other people, but certainly your own pleasure principle. What brings you joy? There may have been some weight around the things that do, but they are just asking you to say, are you willing to commit through thick or thin? Are you willing to hold that weight and responsibility and not just seek the energy that feels light and joyous? That through that we then come out the other side, and the weight and the lift and the burden. Oh, hey Venus. Actually, the burden gets lifted having gone through whenever we have a Saturn transit. As I said, someone may come into your life that may feel very karmic, because the 5th house can be about other people, and being mindful of what that of just sorry, I'm just trying to figure out the words for expressing that Saturn wants you to be integral to you. So it may be a karmic situation that is stress testing that is impacting that. It might not necessarily, that relationship might not be lasting long term, but it's certainly helping you establish boundaries that reflect what kind of dynamics you want to draw towards you in the long term. I'm just prefacing that it could be meeting somebody. I'm always wary of talking about these things, but we are dealing with the 5th house. It could be about meeting somebody who does form into a long-term commitment. I don't want to limit that. It's all going to depend on your personal charts, because it's going to reflect in different ways. So it might be that you might have more responsibility around children, and how you communicate that level of authority to them. It could be that children have more authority in your life. And I'm just going to have to pause for a second. That for those of you who have children, your kids might start kicking off a bit more and getting a bit more independent and wanting to show their maturity. It could be, as I said, responsibility around children could definitely be a thing that crops up with a 5th house transit of Saturn. But going back to your creative energy, just getting more mature and responsible around it. And this is going to help facilitate you in the long term. Like it's not an immediate gratification with Saturn. It's very much about finding maturity in your pleasure principles and finding the joy in the depths of things. So even if it might feel a little tight and a little restricting, it is giving a sense of form and structure to that Piscean energy, helping you cultivate and bring in your creative energy linked into magic as well. Because, having the collective unconscious emotional space in your 5th houses mean you have that at your resources to connect to and draw towards you. And now Saturn is helping give some structure to that in the way that you express yourself creatively. For some of you, it might mean a leveling up of the things that you find joy in, that you might have been a bit sort of short-termist in how you get your joy. That's not a reflection of that, because I think everything in moderation, including moderation. So short-term and long-term, let's have everything, all the dynamics. That there just might be a sense of being a bit more the adult in the room with Saturn, of what brings you pleasure. So that can definitely be a thing. I'm just having a little see what else wants to come through intuitively about the fifth house. It does try, let's say, it does trine your Scorpio energy, which, in the first house, that's how you embody yourself in your actions and your deeds. It's your vitality, your character. So we're having Saturn trining whatever you have in Scorpio. And for Scorpio ascendants, that's going to be how you embody yourself. So a sense of maturity in the way that you express creativity, being able to find wisdom in that, and find wisdom in the ability to embody yourself, a bit more mature in the way that you engage, as I said, with that pleasure principle that is going to be facilitating in the way that you look to yourself and what your character may be, and how you embody that. Very inspirational energy. It's a good time if you've got a project in a creative area, and that can be anything. It's just about thinking, coloring outside the lines. It's about bringing your own energy to something that may have already been done before. And so, it's not just art and music. It's absolutely everything. That this is a good time if you started a project with Saturn in Pisces, that now we're revisiting, we're editing, we're seeing what blocks may have been come up that are actually rerouting you and giving you new perspectives. So again, we're revising right now. So if you do have creative projects, this is a great time to get responsible with them. Any creative projects you engage in around this time, they're going to have an element of legacy. There's going to be a commitment there. But it is duty, it is hard work, it is responsibility. It's like, do you want to, so like with the Pisces in the fifth, it's like potentially the collective energy might be distorting how you connect on what's your personal connection. And so with Saturn moving through there is potentially giving barriers and boundaries of that collective energy that may be blocking your source, your soul expression of your creative energy. Right, because we're dealing with Saturn, we look to the signs that Saturn rules. Actually, no, I should go back to Jupiter. Right, Pisces, ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is over in your seventh house. And so what's going on with Jupiter is having an impact on Saturn. And as I said, Jupiter's over in your seventh house in Taurus. This is opposing your Scorpio energy, regardless of whether it's your rising sign or not. So we're bringing Taurus and Scorpio energy into balance and finding wisdom in the reflection of you. It's all going to vary depending if your sun or your moon or other things. But for Scorpio rising, this is in the seventh house of other. This is intimate relationships, business partners, clients, one-to-one engagement, very intimate friends, or sort of long-term committed relationships. It is linked into contracts, and after all, marriage is a contract. That was one of the main delineations with the seventh house in traditional astrology, which is marriage. But it's this sense of what are you committing to, what's important to you, that how these one-to-one relationships show up, where you prioritize that. And so Jupiter moving through there, again, I've done a Jupiter transit. If you want to check that out, it's in there's playlists for each of the planets and each of the signs. That Jupiter is helping bring you wisdom and understanding about how you engage with your one-to-one relationships. It can bring people into your life that help provide wisdom and understanding and unpacking those dynamics. Opportunities may come up that may be linked into work as well. So with that creative energy, however that manifests, with Saturn giving responsibility and integrity to that area of your chart and Jupiter providing wisdom, they are sextiling one another. I meant to say that in the introduction. I've pulled cards for the Saturn sextile Jupiter energy in the summer solstice videos. Because I'm not pulling cards for each aspect in this video, but it activated, it was exact on the 19th of June, which was just before the summer solstice, so very prominent energy for the summer solstice. So I've pulled cards for each of the signs of what that aspect energy is bringing up. So do check that out if you want to get a bit more of understanding, because that Saturn Jupiter sextile is, even though it's going to be exact a few times because both of the planets are going to retrograde and go back over the degrees harmonize and meet each other again. But also until Jupiter leaves Taurus and moves into Gemini next year, we're feeling that energy by sign. So it's very creative, very supportive energy between you finding wisdom in your one-to-one relationships or providing wisdom in one-to-one relationships. And that's facilitating with that energy of elevation of your what one-to-one relationships mean to you. With that creative energy feeding into Saturn of integrity and responsibility with your creation energy. So you could really see a complete revamp in love relationships over this next year. And this is all about instigating, well, it's not instigating energy, but it's cultivating energy that was instigated at the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius at the winter solstice 2020. So now we've got a sextile, which is having that being seeded, that energy being seeded back then. Now we're building on it creatively. Now we're brainstorming, we're harmonizing those energies together to help facilitate us in more of a long-term cycle. It can also mean if you work with clients on a one-to-one basis or anybody where the information feels very personal and intimate, that this is a time when that's going to flourish. You're going to be able to transmute information very easily during this time. So we've got a lot of support from Jupiter and a lot of support from Saturn. And so what else is going on? Well, so that's where Jupiter is. And so we want to talk a little bit about Venus, because she appears to be the only card that wants to come out for you, Scorpio. Venus rules Taurus. So what's going on with Jupiter is being impacted on what's going on with Venus. And we have Venus over in Leo for the next 4 months, and she's going to retrograde. And this squares in general, this squares Scorpio energy. But for Scorpio rising, this is in your 10th house. Again, I've done a Venus transit video. I really recommend that one the most. Well, I recommend all of them because, you know, all the energies are intertwined. But Venus retrogrades the least out of all the planets. And so when she does, and she's a personal planet, it's about how we love and how we appreciate it and how we bring in harmony and how we get creative. So when she does retrograde, this has a bigger impact. And this is the first time she's retrograding in Leo for the last 8 years. So back in 2015. I break that down a lot more in that Venus transit. And for Scorpio rising, this is the 10th house. This is your life purpose, your career, your reputation. So that's getting a revamp. And that is impacting your one-to-one relationships and your creative energy. So that's why I'm kind of leaning into how this can be really good for your life purpose, not only in terms of committed romantic relationships, but also the commitment to your ability to communicate and express yourself in one-to-one dynamics that is facilitating your ability to fuel your life purpose and harnessed by the power and integrity and the long-term legacy of Saturn being in your creative energy. So you're really getting, you know, we can apply our creative energy to, it doesn't matter what we're doing, to any role that we have, any life purpose that we have. And this is all impacting, this revamp of Venus is impacting your one-to-one relationships as well as your creative energy. So we've got this loop of energy working together of what it personally feels to you, a sense of appreciation of value in your life purpose and your career, and the wisdom that you're able to provide in one-to-one relationships, fueled by the strength and maturity of your creation energy and how you share that. Again, that's also can be linked into commitment on a one-to-one relationship that may feel like a life purpose as well. I don't want to limit that, but not all of us are looking for that. So I want to focus more on you and how you can work with this energy of the Jupiter moving through there, of like figuring out, okay, what's important to me in those one-to-one relationships. Saturn being like, how are we going to mature in the way that we respond to our creative energy that may have been distorted. Our inner child can be in the 5th house, and we have a lot of wounds there. Saturn's coming along and helping the inner child get a bit of perspective and understanding that cause and effect internally. And so, yeah. Right. Saturn, wherever Saturn is leveling up, Capricorn and Aquarius, because those are the signs that Saturn rules. So we look to where Capricorn and Aquarius are in your chart, Scorpio, and Capricorn is in the 3rd house of communication. It's also linked into your environment, the things that you do every day. It's not about routines, that's the 6th house, but just like the making a cup of tea, doing the washing up, going for a walk, going to your local shop, walking to work, going to work, writing or communicating on a regular basis, just something that is essentially a little repetitive, how you express yourself, that communication, that it's also linked into learning something for the first time, because it's linked into schools, so sort of like early year schools rather than higher education, and it's also linked into short distance travel as well as siblings, but just in general I want to focus on the communication aspect of it and your environment. So Saturn moving through the 5th house is helping facilitate, so not only does Saturn level up those areas of your chart wherever Saturn's going, but it's also bringing in the themes of those houses that they're in, that Capricorn and Aquarius are in, into your 5th house. So it just adds a bit more nuance on how this Saturn transit turns up for you. So as I said, you might be revisiting something that you, or your a way of it, so your creativity is potentially linked into the way that you communicate, and so you may be doing something every day. You know, I was saying, if you're doing a creative project, especially with the 3rd house of communication, that can be like writing every day, doing something every day that is facilitating the growth of the way that you communicate, as well as bringing in that sense of let's revisit, let's go over and really finesse and strengthen the foundations of a beginning of a project. And that can be in terms of your creation energy, your pleasure principle of like how reassessing and communicating with yourself on a regular basis of what do you need? What do you need for that creation energy to thrive? Step up to the plate of the integrity of that energy, of what serves you, what's going to fulfill and let you bloom. There's a euphemism there if you choose to read into it. Right, the 4th house is where Aquarius lies. So we've just had Saturn leave Aquarius at the beginning of the year. So we've already gone through that Saturn energy. You've also Saturn transited Capricorn before, so you've kind of been leveling up these areas of your chart already. And now with that, that's facilitating the next part of the journey. The 4th house represents this squares your Scorpio energy. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier when I talked about Leo, squares are an aspect of Mars. They can bring about conflict, drama, frustration, butting of heads, winning at all costs. It's a 90-degree angle, so it's like two energies. They're both, it involves fixed energy, not fixed energy. It involves signs that have the same modality, cardinal, fixed, mutable, unless it's an out of sign square, and then it gets really cosmic. I love out of sign aspects, but it's two energies butting heads against one another. Like you feel you put your fingers like this and you push against them, you feel the strength of it, but also the resistance. So this is, and because it's Mars, which can be conflict, this is where like frustrations can come up when we've got squares, but also the flip side of that. So if those things are showing up, that's helping you trying to understand and learn what truly matters to you. What fights do you want to fight? Where does this come from? Sometimes fights can be really healthy. It helps release a certain amount of energy as long as you come back to it with love. But the flip side of it is friction, when we've got two energies butting heads against one another, and we need friction in order for this 3D reality linear time frame existence that we're in to, like, this is the reality we're very conscious of. So it's a very powerful manifestation tool, right? It's about things coming into action, a building, you're being forged in the fire with this square energy. So that's the Leo energy squaring Scorpio, regardless of whether it is in your chart. These are all fixed energies. Aquarius squaring, obviously Pluto's been hanging out in Aquarius as well, now back in Capricorn until later this year. What was I saying? Maybe it's next year as well. That Aquarius squares your Scorpio energy, and it's at the root of you. It's your root, it's your roots, your foundations, your ancestors, your lineage, your parents, the roof over your head. It's your private life. It's a very intimate part of who you are. It's the darkest part of the chart. But Saturn's moved through there and have you get some responsibility in your home life, helping strengthen those foundations, and get a sense of maturity in the way and how you consider your home. But it's also your foundations, your roots, making sure those are strong, even stress testing those, and giving a sense of maturity and groundedness and strength to that area of your chart. And that's feeding into your creative energy. So as you know, if you're thinking about getting creative, it might be you're spending a lot of time at home, going over things and working on this project, or this idea, this construct of amusement, because, you know, Saturn can be limiting and restricting. So it might be that you've not found you want to go out in the world and do your amusement, or you've decided to take a particular hobby really, really seriously. And that might be something that you're doing at home, or certainly doing something in private. So those things can kind of show up. But also, the more that we are in integrity with our creation energy, the stronger our foundations are. So that's another way of flipping back around the other way. Okay, I'm just right. So look to where your Saturn is in your natal chart, because that will add, wherever Saturn is, the house that it's in, the themes of that house, the sign that it's in, what kind of energy that's about. That's going to add a layer on to what's going on with Saturn now, because it's the same Saturn. You've both been around the same cycles and evolved. So yeah, that can be very helpful to make it a bit more personal to you, rather than this collective reading. I'm going to talk about the sort of aspects that Saturn's going to be making in this retrograde phase. And so this is up to the 4th of November, but we won't necessarily see things manifest fully. It all varies. You know, it can be both. It won't manifest properly, but you'll get clues when it goes direct. But it won't leave shadow phase until the 7th of February. So it's going to go back over those degrees, back up to 7 degrees in 12 minutes. And then when it leaves that, it's going to be in fresh territory. And that's when things tend to get instigated, that you're starting a new part of the journey, after everything that you've learned. And so the actual retrograde phase, as I said, I talked about the Jupiter, Saturn, a sextile, which is in the summer solstice. Also going to very quickly mention while I talk about that is Neptune has now gone retrograde, and I've pulled cards for the Neptune retrograde in the Capricorn full moon series. Again, that's, you know, Neptune is affecting Saturn. They're both now retrograde in the sign of Pisces. So this bringing the inward magic internally into you, and your ability to utilize that with a little more clarity. But do check out the Capricorn full moon, because that is where I've pulled cards for that particular aspect. So I'm not going to be doing a transit video on this. So the Jupiter-Saturn aspect is the only aspect Saturn's really making with the bigger outer planets. The rest of the aspects for this retrograde are going to be Mars, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun. Oh, hello, Scorpio. And these are all going to be in opposition or trine. So we're going to have from the 20th of July to the 10th of October, we've got oppositions in Virgo. So this is when planets are going to go into Virgo, which is opposite Pisces, and they're going to form an opposition. So we've got a lot of personal planets moving through your 11th house of hopes and dreams, friends, groups, and alliances, and reaping the benefits from your 10th house, which is the career life purpose. That the work that you're dedicating and putting in, because wherever Saturn is, it helps us get a bit more mature and contemplative and responsible in that area of our chart. That those personal planets moving through there may be highlighting the benefits that you're going to reap, or facilitating bringing your hopes and your dreams into your creative energy. So with oppositions, it can be in balance, right? Those two houses, those two signs working together, they're two sides of the same coin. It can also bring about just a sense of separation and isolation. There might be a possibility, and I'm not really getting it with this transit at all, but I'm just highlighting it for some of you, that it may be affecting you in this way, that you might You might feel a bit frustrated by the retrograde because you've got these actions going through your hopes and your dreams and you're wanting things to move forward, but Saturn's still retrograde, right? So be patient. Be patient and give it time. That's all I can say is breathe with this and just whew, and realize that this is a transit that's affecting you in the long term, right? It doesn't mean don't take action with your hopes and your dreams, but don't lose hope if things aren't immediately manifesting with that. It could be that you're reaping your benefits from your career, from your life purpose that come up with that, and that's in an alignment with this foundational setting that Saturn is doing in your creative energy. We're also going to have a Mercury retrograde in Virgo, and I will be doing a transit video on that, where Mercury is going to go and be opposite Saturn. And this might bring about the way that you communicate in groups, just having a bit more of authority, being able to express your creative energy to groups and to energy. So that may show up, as well as you being able to finesse the details of your hopes and your dreams. And then we'll move on to the trines. So from the 13th of October till the end of till up to the 4th of November, we're going to have Mars, Mercury, and the Sun move into Scorpio, into your sign. So we're going to get this trine energy again, which I've already talked about, where you're now embodying the work that this retrograde has helped you finesse. You've got a lot more motivation, you've got a lot more drive. It's about you and your embodiment and finding clarity there. Very supportive energy. With the Mercury transit, the opposition, the Mercury trine on the 22nd of October, all of this I've listed in the description box, is just after a cazimi with the Sun. And this is when the Sun and planets meet up with one another, when you get divine inspiration come through from the Sun. That's happening right at the end of Libra, when Mercury's moving from a morning star to an evening star. So we're now shifting a dynamic of how we engage. We're getting a bit more receptive. We're still planning and we're still going over things, but you're able to draw things towards you. And so I love that just off the bat of that, all that divine inspiration and wisdom that's for you happening in your 12th house, your hidden house, the house of mysteries, is going to then feed into Saturn. Of like, that magic that you have in the 12s, the unraveling of trauma responses, feeding into how that may have affected your creative energy and unblocking that and being mindful of it in observation and letting it go. What else did I want to say? Okay, so we're going to have a lot of planets go retrograde. I've put all the dates in the description box. Jupiter and Uranus go retrograde around similar times. I think Uranus goes first and then it's Jupiter, and that's all around... So Uranus goes retrograde on the 29th of August. Jupiter, I think like the 4th of September. And then Pluto is retrograde right now, and then we'll go direct right at the end of this transit. So just want to let you know, all the outer planets as well as Venus are going to be retrograde for a chunk of this summer. We are revising, we're going over, we're cultivating, and then everything's going to go direct again, and we're going to get a lot of forward momentum. So this is a great time of just slowing down, be still, taking your time with things, being patient, and letting this energy cultivate and not necessarily rushing in. Right, so they've put the deck down, which means all the cards that wanted to come out have come out. This is when I'm going to go quiet. You've just had a load of information. You've been Saturn's been retrograde since the 17th of June, so you've had some time to sort of sit with that energy. This is why I like doing the transit videos a little bit after the actual transit, because I want you to be able to have an understanding of what this already feels like for you, what you've already experienced. And this is a time of your allowing that all that information to sink in, seeing what pops up, still your mind, seeing what intuitively pops up that you've been working with, seeing how you think this might be reflected in what this retrograde is going to mean for you and how this feels for you on a very personal level. And then, right, so I find it a little difficult to channel, so the energies move the cards around. I find it difficult when they do that to channel, think and talk at the same time. So I'm going to go quiet. They're going to move the cards around, potentially do some energy work. Bear with me with this. It's part of the process. It's the yin energy. Oh, that reminds me. So that the things in Virgo and the things in Scorpio and Pisces, Taurus, these are all your earth night sign, earth and water. They're yin night signs. You are a yin night sign, so this is very cultivating energy, very supportive energy, either sextiling or trining, as well as that opposition. But it's facilitating inspiration, wisdom, and creativity for you during this transit. With the square with Venus that is transforming your life purpose, helping you find appreciate, starting a whole new 8-year cycle. So you've got supportive energy in the earth and water signs, and then this manifestation of your heart energy coming up at the pinnacle of your chart. Okay, I'm going to quiet now. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's always when I think they're done, they're not done. I'm just going to pause for a second. Sorry about that, Scorpio. I just had sometimes the energies, if I left them to their own devices, they would do movements for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes they aren't necessarily conscious and aware of time and space. So I just wanted to do a bit of clearing and do a little work off camera, because I appreciate your time and energy, and I'm very, very conscious of not wasting that. And it's certainly with the energies that I channel, they're not really that bothered. In a way, just as I said, they're from different dimensions, so caring about the smallness of moments is not necessarily something that is on their agenda. They want to they want to do the energy work. They want to get the shift of channeling of energy come through. So I just wanted to pause and do some work off camera. But overall, the energy that I'm getting, because of the cards that have come up, like in the way that they wanted to go, is that there's been a lot going on, and now there's a sweetness, there's a sort of there's a sense of relief, but I'm not really getting that there isn't still things to do, just more the way in which you engage with it. So as I said, that creation energy, that life force energy that we have in the fifth house, it can affect absolutely everything in your chart: how you embody yourself, where you get your pleasure, the things that give you a spring in your step, the way that you engage with the world, what you're bringing forth into the world. All of these sorts of dynamics can come up with the fifth house. And we've got for the energies, I do apologize. Sometimes, even if I want to override, I can't, because they're determined to put the cards down. We've got for Saturn in Pisces, and the sort of direct and what you've been working through and what's being transformed. Like, it's also Saturn puts up limitations, puts up blocks that may have felt intensely frustrating, a questioning of your own authority, a questioning of what brings you joy, what brings you pleasure. And this can happen, and I feel the retrograde cards for all the signs have really shown that this is shifting, that we're working with this, that we're working through those roadblocks. And we've got the Five of Swords and the Nine of Swords. These are difficult energies. These represent struggles, discourse, frustration of lots of different ideas, battling it out together. A lot of there's an intensity, a conflict energy around with the Five of Swords, with the Nine of Swords, which is about anxiety, nightmares, sleepless nights, like really intense anxiety. You see the darkness in the Nine of Swords. It's almost unbearable. With whenever this card comes up, we're dealing with sort of the past energy here, but I always say, look to the rose. Try and bring yourself back down to the present moment, not being overwhelmed by all these things that you may feel like you need to tackle. It's about drawing inward, making yourself present, switching that flip from fear and anxiety to breathing and being slow, and finding a sense of appreciation in any moment. But so this combined with the death card, is your card, Scorpio. This is about acknowledgement of things that you need to let go of and you need to transform. And it's okay, so it's wanting to go with the Nine of Swords of through Saturn moving through signs can bring up blocks and limitations that have been there that we haven't worked through. And so with that Nine of Swords, anxiety of something that's been blocking your creative energy, your ability to express yourself from a space of abundance rather from a space of fear. The Death card coming along is saying you've instigated this journey of letting things go, of transforming. I always point out the fact we see here there's a monarch that is no more, has embodied the word of this card, and that represents transmuting an energy that had authority over you that didn't serve you, that wasn't serving you in the long term. It's about, the death card is all about purification of transmuting and composting energy that may have caused decay, caused chaos within you, that life force energy that we're now, you see here the sun is rising out the other side of this through the darkness comes the light. So it's helping. This can be also a certain way of thinking, winning, because we're multifaceted beings. We have the capacity to think in many different ways, but there's, okay, so with this I always point out, so this is kind of representing a bully energy. Bullies come about because they were often bullied as kids, right? So trauma begets trauma. That we can have ways of thinking, right? Because it's air, it's swords, it's mental capacity. We can have ways of thinking that can kind of push out other ways of thinking, like this ingrained, intuitive trauma response, the inner child space. Of and it doesn't have to be an energy, a way of thinking that is bringing about, that is being conflicting. It can be anything. It can be lack of self-worth. It can be anything that as a framework of a consistent way of thinking that keeps coming up that isn't serving you. Look how jagged the clouds are. This energy is not facilitating growth. This is as if you spoke I hate you to water. This is what would show up, right? This is the jarring discourse that things aren't in flow. And so because this is mind, this is about ideas and constructs of what may have been blocking your inner creativity from coming out, of not necessarily having one way of engaging creatively with something, of allowing new pathways to come through. So helping break through anxiety, fear-based energy, and transmuting that authority that's come over. So Saturn's in Pisces is helping instigate this process. As I said, I mentioned the inner child is there. Whether you're conscious of it or not, there may be things right at the root of you that bubble up in the surface in the way that you express yourself in your present day. A reason why there's a shift, there's a shift of gear here, from something that feels quite heavy. That's, you know, Saturn can be very heavy. It rules lead, this weight of responsibility that you may feel that brings about anxiety. But we've got the sixth. This is the retrograde itself. We've got the Six of Pentacles, the Ace of Cups, and the Empress. Completely shift in energy. The Six of Pentacles, this is about receiving benefits from something higher than yourself, right? So it's represented by the hierarchical structure here. But it's about things coming into balance. It's about starting a new journey where you feel nourished and supported. And so Saturn coming in, of facilitating, okay, we're putting this energy into balance. We're helping clear those roadblocks, so you're then able to feel support, internal support, like narratives that may have blocked you are getting, as I said, put into balance. It's really shown by the positivity of the other cards. The Ace of Cups, this is the dove of peace here, finding peace in your emotional connection to your creation energy. This sense of abundance and overflow. One of the main phrases that I really served me and helped me, and that I repeat quite a lot on this channel, is give from your saucer, not from your cup. So essentially it's implying giving from the overflow, not depleting your resources. And by that space, you're giving from this sense of abundance. But what this is representing for me is this new, fresh, new aces are very invigorating. They're a whole new start in the dynamic in which you connect to something on an emotional level, on a creative, imaginative level of cups. And that's coming with the Empress, of finding the bounty. Now, in Hellenistic principles, Venus loves being in the fifth house. If she's in the fifth house in your chart, it's her favorite place to be. She loves joy, pleasure, creation energy, sensations, sensuality, the things that bring you joy, the things that bring you harmony. This is all about what the fifth house is about. Love that she's showing up here in this Saturn transit, saying Saturn is helping you get to this space. Saturn is helping you feel the abundance of the 3D realm, this sense of fertility, this sense of joy of existing, this ability to create as well. She's very fertile energy, that rather than the limitations and blocks, this is an expression of a renewal of that creation energy that will help facilitate not productivity, but certainly that sense of cultivation, of birthing things out into the world. How this energy is manifesting moving forward. We've got the King of Cups. This is a great card to have. I love this sort of, being crowned with the Empress energy of what that retrograde is helping establish. And that's then sort of bringing in the King of Cups, which is emotional control. This is about being able to be in balance, in harmony with your emotions, but also your creativity and your intuition. If you see here, there's a sea monster is about to go and attack the ship. The waves are really rocky, but the King of Cups isn't phased. The foundations on the ocean, very, very appropriate energy for Saturn in Pisces. The foundations on the ocean are giving the King of Cups a sense of strength and stability, knowing how to take action based on your intuition, based on your creative energy, based on your emotional space. Is a real command of your emotional dynamic there's a maturity coming in, and being able to take action based on that. Right, I'm going to pull some clarification cards. All the decks are in the description box if any of them take your fancy. This is the numerology deck, and just want to see what either confirmation or clarification or other nuances want to come through for Scorpio with this Saturn retrograde in Pisces. That was the leadership card. We'll see if that wants to come out again. Yeah, sometimes when I'm pulling cards that I can feel the energy in my deck, in my hands, where it's just kind of like, are we going to get really clumsy on you because they want to do some energy work and not let any cards come out of the deck, because that's how they roll. Okay, so they're wanting to go over to the happy Buddha, the laughing Buddha, this ability to embody come rain, come storm, of being able to find joy in any situation. And just laugh and be, I love the combination of the Empress and the got karmic completion. Very appropriate for us all for this Saturn in Pisces video, of we're all constantly clearing out karma, everything we do. The earth energy is very heavy, that we're in this space of, it's gone underneath the death card, it's gone into the first path of like a lot of loose ends have been tied up, even if they may have been frustrating and may have taken a bit of responsibility, but it's really opening up a different energy coming through of feeling joy in this 3D existence, but with maturity at the same time. Right, okay, no, I pulled a card. I'll come back to that. This is the First Light Tarot, so I'm going to pull a card from, see what wants to come up here. We've got harmony, bridges, joy. Again, another 10. I'm just going to pull one more from here. So the sense of being able to connect to your joy, connect to that creation energy. I mean, look at that swirl of fire. I mean, that's quite an embodiment of the creation energy, that life force within us, that Kundalini energy. So we've got the Emperor. This is Aries energy. This is order, logic, stability, plans, a sense of having control over something, the taking command, and closing up those cycles. And, we've got the Emperor and the Empress. For some of you, that may be specific in terms of relationships, because we are sort of dealing one-to-one relationships, everything that I talked about in the beginning. But I'm more getting the sense of feeling good about yourself, feeling emotional control, and through that you're able to become the King of Kings. You're able to bring wisdom and stability into your life that is for helping facilitate your creative energy, and that might be want to look wherever Aries falls in your chart. That might give a clue of what's showing up with the Emperor. We're going to have the nodes moving in there on the 18th of July. So for a lot of this retrograde, we are going to have a new nodal shift. Right, I'm going to pull a final card, and then I will end the reading. Let's see what final message wants to come through for Scorpio. Yeah, all I've really been suggesting for people in these readings is breathe, be patient. Just acknowledge the fact that Saturn can be difficult. It is traditionally the greater malefic, but there are reasons behind the madness, reasons behind the limitations, the frustrations. You may not feel it at the moment, but it will. I just always think about the last Saturn transit, so the transit in Aquarius, how that was pretty wild, and it felt very disruptive at the time. Admittedly, that was in its own sign. We're dealing with Jupiter and Venus here, so it's not quite the hard landing as before, but still the maturity and the release and that sense of completion after that transit was absolutely vast. Final message. They're wanting to do a lot of energy work for you, Scorpio. I think, because I started recording this when the Ascendant was 27 degrees of Libra, so it will definitely be in Scorpio by now, which is probably why there's getting a lot of intense energetic work, because I'm embodying the Scorpio energy. Oh, just had an energetic release. Okay, maybe they don't want a card. Nope, they don't want a card from that deck. Or at all. So I'm going to end the reading. I apologize that Scorpio. I always try and get at least one more card, but they are flat out refusing to engage. So obviously the message that needed to come through has come through. We don't need any more information. If any of this resonated, don't forget to hit that like button. Any interaction with the channel, it's a growing channel, so any interaction really helps the algorithm, helps YouTube push this out into the big outside world. Yeah, if you feel like it resonated and it had meaning for you, that making that accessible to people who might not stumble across it, as it is a growing channel. But obviously do what you feel so inclined. Right, I'm going to leave it at that. Scorpio, be good to yourself, be good to those around you, and most importantly, be well until we meet again. Libra rising. How you doing, Libra? For those of you just tapping into the Libra energy, look to where Libra falls in your chart, the house that it's in, the themes of that house, and apply those themes to the messages that come through. In general, Libra and Pisces energy are what's called in conjunct. They traditionally don't have anything in common with one another. Libra is cardinal air and yang, day in nature, and Pisces is mutable water and yin, night in nature. So it can be frustrating, it can be difficult, crossed wires, mixed communication. It's imagine you're having a conversation with someone and you come at the world in from different spaces. And it might be a little bit difficult to first get things and have an understanding of one another. So there's a lot of learning going on with in conjuncts. It's a bit hard work, but there's magic there, because once you realize, basically, there are common denominators for everybody, that there, regardless of having things in common, you're able to appreciate and respect that energy. And when you get those into harmony with one another, you're able to create in sort of more maverick, out of the box roadblocks kind of ways. So that's just the sort of general energy for the wherever Libra falls in your chart. There, Pisces is in conjunct. But for Libra rising, you've got Saturn in your 6th house. This is the house of work, health, and routines. I call this house the adult in the room. Right, so these are all things that sometimes the human being can a bit struggle with. We struggle to take care of our health. We find it difficult to establish routines, and work might just feel a little heavy, a little, oh, we don't want to do it. This is how you express the way that you work. And so Saturn moving through here gives a sense of maturity and responsibility. It's going to help navigate routines, break down structures that haven't been working, in order to facilitate long-term legacy in the way that you work, and the routines that you form and how you take care of your health. So Saturn moving through here and retrograding is, so when Saturn was direct, this may have, you may have got a sense of authority of what it is that you want to embody in terms of your work, what it is that you want in the long term, and having more understanding and authority and command over that. But Saturn brings up roadblocks and restrictions, this sense of limitation. And so all with this retrograde, we're going to be going over those limitations. We're going to, it's almost like we're having a little more clarity and understanding of what those limitations look like. And so with this retrograde, as I said, we're getting some clarity. We're able to get a bit of perspective. I've been saying to all the signs, just breathe, be patient. Things take a while to cultivate. Saturn has a 2.5-year transit through each sign or thereabouts. And so this is instigating a whole new cycle in the area of your work, health, and routines. Wanting to get responsible, wanting to be mature around this. Helping you figure out how you want to work in the long term, what's important to you in terms of health, finding a bit more structure around your routines. That there may have been other blockages from other parts of your chart that may have come up of saying, hey, we're testing your commitment to your responsibility to the way that you work. Work is a wonderful thing when we operate from our heart space, when we operate from our soul space. The Saturn wants to come along and help facilitate that, help strengthen your foundations and get you in alignment with your legacy. But with the retrograde, this is about a test of your commitment to that. And Saturn is 3 times closer to the Earth. So we've got the strength of Saturn's energies going inward and really being able to commit and let go of bad habits, let go of bad ways that weren't facilitating a healthy work-life balance as well. Habits around our health and how we may have mistreated it. These are great things to work with and be mindful of that are coming up during this transit. You may have tests around your authority in the way that you work. This may come from co-workers, which is another representation of the 6th house, that you may be feeling very empowered by Saturn being there and feeling a bit more mature. The other factors may come along and test that and question that. And it's all that Saturn wants us to walk our talk. Very appropriate in Pisces because Pisces ruled the feet. Finding a deeper level of empathy and mature with the way that you engage with how you work. A sense of deepening of maturity and facilitating your commitment to your work, commitment to the structures, finessing those structures, finessing those habits, and how you engage in the working environment. Saturn retrograde can be a really good time of writing things down and figuring out what structures you want to put in place for when Saturn moves direct. Because we're dealing with Pisces here and Saturn also represents cause and effect, you're going to be able to see the root of why you respond the way that you do in this difficult house. It's going to elevate and strengthen your ability to see these fault points in your foundations and be able to let go of karmic ties that may have blocked your ability to work in an empowered way, where it's not feeling so difficult. These things can help get cleared out in this cycle that's a part of a 30-year new regroup. in the 6th house, finding discipline, acknowledging that hard work is important, and that it has value and place in your life. These are all things that can happen with the Saturn retrograde, and just generally Saturn overall is facilitating this. And the retrogrades are a time of, hey, we may have missed something, and now we're able to see a little more clearly. We're giving the time and space to go over territory 3 times. So we're really harnessing everything that we've been learning with Saturn being there already, for the next part of its journey. Oh, hello. Lovely getting an ace straight away. Oh, I just want to mention very quickly, Neptune's retrograde as well. And I pulled cards for Neptune being retrograde in the Capricorn full moon video. So go check that out, because Neptune will be affecting what's going on with Saturn. So I'm not doing a separate Neptune transit video. So do go seek those out and see how that's going to add on the layers of what this Saturn retrograde is going to feel like. Right, because we're dealing with Pisces, we want to look to Jupiter, because Jupiter rules Pisces traditionally, and Jupiter is over in your 8th house. This is another inconjunct for Libra risings. No, not just Libra risings, but Libra in general. So you've got 2 inconjuncts here. You've got the ruler of Pisces and Saturn in Pisces in signs that inconjunct your Libra energy. Again, everything that I just said about that inconjunct, it can feel a bit difficult to access, can take time and patience, and also respect with that inconjunct of appreciating different ways and modalities of doing things. And so we've got Jupiter over in Taurus. For you, Libra rising, that is in your 8th house of the give and take between you and the outside world. It's the outside world's resources. It's a time of reaping the benefits from what the outside world and the 5D and the 3D has to offer. It's linked into inheritance, cosmic or 3D inheritance, as well as transformation. As well as it's like the give and take between you and on the outside world, time, money, things, energy. Jupiter's going through there and helping provide wisdom and understanding of how you want that give and take to be. Sometimes we can give too much, sometimes we can take too much, have too much hope in what the outside world has to provide us. I always focus on the 8th house of trying to get that imbalance of being able to cultivate your own internal resources. I've done a Jupiter transit video, so I break down what that means for us all up until its retrograde, which I think is on the 4th of September. So I've pulled cards for that, so we maybe go check that out as well, to add on what influence is Jupiter having on Saturn. So you may be seeking wisdom from the outside world. You may be getting support and mentorship from the outside world that is facilitating how you work, facilitating your health and your routines, as well as just feeling a little bit more confident moving around in the outside world that isn't and the dynamics, you're understanding the wisdom of dynamics, and that give and take that is facilitating you not getting burnt out at work. Woo! What else Jupiter impacting on Saturn? So as I said, yeah, potentially finding resources from the outside world that are going to facilitate how you want to embody yourself in work, so how you want to apply your routines, and take care of your health. So it's a supportive energy. It's a sextile energy between Taurus and Pisces. And we had a sextile between Jupiter and Saturn on the 19th of June. I pulled cards for that exact transit, which will be affecting us essentially until Jupiter leaves and moves into Gemini next year. It's the first major aspect that Saturn and Jupiter have made since the conjunction in Aquarius at the winter solstice of 2020. So conjunction, seed energy, sextiles, the creative energy of working with what we've understood over that time, and getting creative. So sextile is an aspect of Venus. So she wants to bring in creative energy, brainstorming, both yin, night signs. So they've got things in common, but they're different modalities and different elements. So it's a harmonizing of different ways of bringing bringing together ideas that come from a similar place. This is wanting to bring harmony, love, appreciation, and a sense of connection between how you engage with the outside world, the resources that it has, that is helping facilitate a long-term cycle of the integrity of the way that you work and the way that you take care of yourself. So that aspect, as I said, that I pulled cards for that in the summer solstice video, so do go check that out. You might want to look to where Saturn is in your chart to add a sort of nuance to the personal level of how this is impacting you, where Saturn is, the sign that it's in, and the house that it's in, and the themes of that house. This can come up in reflection of the Saturn transit to make it more personalized. Right, because we're dealing with Saturn, we look to where Aquarius and Capricorn are, because Saturn traditionally rules those two signs. You have Capricorn in your 4th house. So for Libra rising, this squares your Libra energy. We've had Saturn move through these two signs recently. That may have felt a little tough for us all, I mean, across the board, because Saturn's in its own signs, and Saturn can be, it's the greater malefic. It can bring up limitations, no's, frustrations, isolation, but we've worked through that, and now Saturn is in a Jupiter ruled sign, so there's a generosity here, there's a sense of expansion and wisdom and ease that flows through with this particular transit. But getting back to Capricorn in your 4th house, this is the roots and foundations. This is your lineage, your parents, your ancestors. This is the roof over your head and your private life. So themes around what you need from your roots and your foundations are going to be impacting. So Saturn's leveling up these two signs, but also the themes of these two signs and the houses that they're in are going to be playing a part in this transit. So getting in alignment with your roots and your foundations of how that affects your work, your health and your routines, helping find integrity and being able to, you walk with your own inner power, be able to express yourself, that is in alignment with what it is that you need from your foundations, what it is that you need, that support you need in your private life can be very loud. That may be a disruption of things in your private life that aren't serving your ability to commit to yourself, you know, the adult in the room of the 6th house, of really being able to be responsible for your being in areas that may feel a little bit difficult and a little bit frustrating. Saturn really wants you to have strong foundations in order to be able to flourish with integrity. It's about your legacy. How do you want your legacy to be reflected? As I said, like when it's retrograde, this can be a test of your commitment to that legacy. So things may come up that in different areas of your chart that are going to be pushing your buttons, pushing your limitations to help you really know what is truly important to you in this journey with Saturn moving through your 6th house, of gaining some maturity, gaining some responsibility, and revisiting that, and really refreshing and refining that sense of authority. Or so Aquarius is in your 5th house. This is your creation energy. This is what brings you amusement and fun and joy, your pleasure principles. It's linked into children, as well as any sort of creative outlet that you birth into the world. It's also linked into romance and short-term dating. And so themes around what may have been limiting you in romance or short-term dating, or what may be blocking your pleasure principle, because you've already kind of established what you want from that. And now we're integrating, because Saturn's just been in Aquarius, and now we're integrating that into your work. Okay, how is what you've learned of what you truly want in the long term diminishing how you work, diminishing your health, right? Diminishing your routines. For, you know, this could be dynamics that you have in the way that you seek joy, which can be habitual or addictive. Saturn's coming along and saying, is that in alignment with your work? Is that in alignment with this other area of your chart? If it isn't, we're bringing that in. We're shaking down those foundations. We're putting up limitations. It's really good around a retrograde to be able to establish like what it is that's been affecting you, and how you're able to say no to these things. I talked about in the introduction that it's Saturdays are a really good day to set intentions of putting up limitations around things that may not have served you. And so this retrograde is a really good time of harnessing the power of where you want to be responsible, basically. You know, Saturn is very mature energy, and it's in the adult in the room sign for me. And so this is very much of like, what are you committing to? What's truly important to you for your long term that isn't just reflected in impulse, immediate pleasure principles. It is also facilitating the growth of your creative energy for the long term, so you can enjoy the world, so you can find pleasure in the way that you work, in the way that you engage with your health and your routines. It's not all drudgery. There's a support here, particularly because Venus, it has her exaltation in Pisces, and this basically means she's got a massive temple in the land of Pisces. So she's, both Venus and Jupiter, of having an impact on Saturn, and they are the benefics. So Saturn is not quite the school of hard knocks in Pisces. What else did I want to talk about? Right, so speaking of Venus, so Jupiter, which I talked about in your 8th house, is in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, and Venus is over in Leo. So what's going on with Venus is impacting Jupiter, and Jupiter's impacting Saturn. So we've got this chain of energy, and Venus is over in Leo, and she's going to be there for 4 months. She's going to be retrograding. This is, for me, the biggest transit of the year. So Venus retrogrades the least amount of all the planets, and she hasn't retrograded in Leo since 2015. You have this in your 11th house of hopes and dreams, friends, groups and alliances, and reaping the benefits of your 10th house, which is your career, your life purpose. So Venus is moving through there, revamping how you value yourself, how you tend to your hopes and your dreams, your commitment to the certain groups and alliances. I've done a transit video on this, so check that out. It really, for me, it is the big one of the year. Even though we've got several big transits this year, it's like that one is starting a whole 8-year cycle, new year cycle, and that is impacting Taurus, that give and take between you and the outside world, and therefore impacting your work. So your hopes and your dreams are intermingling with how you work and how you embody your health and your routine. Okay, what else did I want? Right, so I talked about the Jupiter-Saturn sextile. That's the main aspect that Saturn is making to the bigger outer planets. The rest of the aspects for this retrograde, which is going up to the 4th of November, with the personal planets, are with Mars, Mercury, the Sun, and Venus. So these are all very personal to us. They're our motivation, our desire, how we communicate, our vitality. And these are all going to be in Virgo. And this is an opposition to Saturn. And so we've got a lot of transits there happening. All the transits and all the dates and all the degrees, they're all in the description box, because I know it's a lot of information. So go check that out and maybe write them down and see what comes up for you around that time to help you have a more understanding of the energy that you can use with this retrograde. And so they're all from the 20th of July to the 10th of October. We're going to have these oppositions, and that's happening in your 12th house. That's the hidden house, the house of mysteries. This can be a place of intensity, because it's that which is the constructs of who we are, and that can be our trauma responses, our limiting beliefs, but underneath all of that is the magic of our souls. So it's not only those hidden constructs, but also the occult magic. It's a very magical house, the 12th house, but it can be a place of depression, loss and grief. And so when we have this opposition between your work, it might highlight and bring up trauma responses that may have blocked your work, relationship dynamics that may have got in the way of that, of how you take care of your health, of how you take care of your routines. It can be a space of anxiety and mental anguish, that space of loss, and you might want to rest a bit more when the personal planets move through there, or be in a space of isolation. You may still be taking action, but it's not necessarily that you're really visible in your day-to-day. There's a sort of a detachment from the norm, whether that's resting and retreating in your private life, or being somewhere that is cultivating that internal internal uncovering of self, that is in almost in a sense of isolation, away from what is normal, hidden from the outside of the world or the rest of your chart. The 12th house is often a place that may be very personal to you, energy that may be personal to you, that might be not integrated in the rest of your chart, or you might find it really difficult to access. So when these planets move through here, they're going to be whatever's coming up, whether it's difficult or supportive. We're going to be getting, helping facilitate these personal planets, bringing it into balance with how you work. So a harmony between those constructs of who you are, releasing trauma, that is facilitating your long-term legacy and how it is that you work and the things that you prioritize. So often our trauma responses and limiting beliefs can have us be very in the moment, instant gratification, needing control, with Virgo of like maybe an internal space. Anxiety is very Virgo can be very self-critical. I'm just sort of thinking of the more difficult energies with Virgo that may come up, and all of that is really Saturn saying, hey, let's get a bit mature about this. Let's bring this into balance. Let's find a way of working through this that is facilitating your long-term goals and commitment. Then, sorry, they just flipped a card over. I'm just wanting to see if they want. So then we're going to have planets are going to move into Scorpio, and they're going to trine Saturn. And this is from the 13th of October till the end of this transit. And trines are an aspect of Jupiter. They provide wisdom and support. So after those oppositions, then we're going to get trines. So we're going to get this sense of potential limitations and separations or frustrations where things are out of balance. And then we're going to get the harmony of the trine. And that will have all followed of the planets moving through your sign, Libra. So you're going to get an embodiment of self before it then moves on to your second house, which is how you value yourself, the tools in which you have to make money. It's your resources, it's the things that you care about. So I really love how at the end of this retrograde, we're going to get the energies of Scorpio coming in with Mars, Mercury and the Sun trining Saturn, of like, okay, how am I motivated to take action with the tools that I have that are embodying the way that I work? So the second house for me are the tools that you have in which to make your money. The sixth house is the embodiment of those tools, and the 10th house is the drive, the life purpose, how that comes out into the world. So really great part of the transit of right at the end of finding wisdom and elevation and cohesion of this particular retrograde, and support and feeding that wisdom and that inspiration and that sense of faith into your long-term commitment of work. Love this for you, Libra. Particularly because you're ruled by Venus. One of your rulers are Venus, and she's doing a big transformation that is sextiling your energy, and so all of that energy is feeding into Saturn. So we do have the Venus card here as well, that there is this sense of big support coming in. Right, so this is a time when I go quiet because they've put the deck down, which means all the cards that are coming out are out. You just had loads of information. Saturn's been retrograde since the 17th of June. I like doing these transits just a little bit after the event, because you've already been sitting with this energy. So you may not be conscious of it, but you're understanding with all this information. It's not just me telling you what's happening. You're going to be able to pick up hits and intuitive hits of what you've gone through. Things may have shown up very clearly around the 17th of June that you can go, oh, that's that, hindsight. Retrogrades are all about hindsight. So it's very helpful to sometimes look back at these things and then see how that's applied. You get a bit more wisdom with it. So this is a time when I'm quiet because they're going to move the cards around, and I find it difficult to channel, think and talk at the same time when they're moving the cards around. That this is a time of cultivation, letting that energy, everything that you've just learned, everything you've just heard, digest, be still, clear your mind, and see what intuitive hits come up and how what I've spoken about you resonate with. And then I'll come back and I'll start talking and bringing the tarot. I forgot to mention, I'm pulling cards for the first part of this transit, first part of Saturn's transit, which when it was direct. However, Basically, since the 11th of March, Saturn's been in the shadow period. And this is when it's gone over the degrees, it's going to retrograde over. Shadow phase can often be quite loud. It can give us clues and understanding of what we're revisiting and transmuting. And so we've been in shadow phase. We're going to be in shadow phase till the 7th of February. So even though Saturn's going to go direct on the 4th of November, we'll see change, a shift of energy, but it could be that not until the 7th of February do these developments, these instigations, this seeded energy is going to start really manifesting. So I just wanted to say that's about, what else did I want to say? Right, yeah, so okay, now words. Right, so I'm gonna go quiet now. Okay, so we've got this is the energy of what you've been working through with Saturn going direct in Pisces leading up to the 17th of June. There's this sense of Saturn can bring up limitations, frustrating, but also you acknowledging your own power. But it's a longer transit, so it's not necessarily turning up straight away. We've got the Four of Cups. And this is for me always, I always say comparison is the thief of joy. It's feeling that there's something that you need that's out of reach, that you don't have it, but there's a bit of stagnation energy, there's a bit of melancholy, a bit of frustration. You're not quite feeling like you're able to take the action you need in order to feel emotional connection. So the Ace of Cups is coming in here and saying, don't worry, you have this resource within you. It could be that just feeling a little bit frustrated at work, and something has been blocking your ability to find joy. There's this sense of just not being in a situation that you're comfortable with and emotionally connecting to. It's come with the 10 of Wands, and this is in reverse. So this is sort of a breaking away from burden, a breaking away from, actually no, I'm getting another message come through in reverse of what you're working through, of perhaps not being able to commit to something. Like, as I said, the sixth house, it's a difficult house. Like, there can be other external factors that are getting in the way of you being able to fully embody your health work and routines. I'm getting more that this isn't necessarily about work. This can be perhaps about other people's health or other people's routines, that they're able to get them in and be able to do it. And there's just a sense of, I can't do it. And you're focused on the fact that you can't do it and you don't have the resources, rather than cultivating that inner space. So these are things that Saturn's coming up and letting you know what's had an authority over you that's been blocking you. The 10 of Wands in reverse is kind of like not necessarily being able to commit to hard work, commit to that dedication of holding that weight. That was just quite a strong message that came through, but this is implying that that's an internal blockage that's been getting in the way of you being able to be dedicated to your passions. We've got this with the Four of Wands and the Empress in reverse. So the Four of Wands is about celebration and hard work. It's about the harvest. So it's about celebrating after having put in the hard work. It feels like there's obviously something that's come up that's worth celebrating, but it was kind of crossing this of saying it's not quite manifesting as full celebration. It's something there is an achievement that's happened, but it's not being supported during the Saturn transit. There's something blocking it, that you're not maybe perhaps you've done something that isn't being celebrated by others. You know, I did say that Saturn in the sixth can be that other people can diminish your authority. This is something that you've committed to. This is something that's taken hard work to get to this space. Okay, they're wanting to, the Empress in reverse over it. This is saying that you haven't quite been there's an internal love. You're ruled by Venus, so the Empress is within you, this sense of abundance, fertility, the joy of the 3D world. But this is in reverse, so Saturn's come along and gone, what's blocking that from being able to be upright and manifest outwardly? What's been questioning that authority that's restricted your ability to celebrate your achievements, to see your achievements clearly, and not have that restricted? That internal, the Empress in reverse can be that you're striving for that space, and restrictions have come up that have blocked that. But I'm really getting that you've been questioning it, that you've been focused on how to turn this energy up the right way. We have for the retrograde itself. So this is the Seven of Pentacles and the Hierophant in reverse. The Seven of Pentacles is about dedication. This is the beginning of the harvest, right? So this is when things have been planted. This is a time of cultivation, of dedication. Right now, you're open. It feels like there's a clearing of the blockages that have restricted you from being able to be dedicated to your work. Able to be dedicated to your physical body, to your health. This is about routine. When you start planting vegetables or whatever it is, that you have to tend to them, you have to care for them, you have to be mindful of them. And this showing up is saying this retrograde is helping you be able to embody this, rather than that Four of Cups of feeling of an outward experience. This is something that you are being mindful and tending to on a day-to-day basis. There's responsibility here. But there's a joy, because there's going to be fruit coming at the end of it. The Hierophant in reverse, inner wisdom. You know, this is Taurus. This is where Jupiter is, rebalancing the harmony between you and the outside world. bringing the Hierophant, which is very, or there's a sense of authority with the Hierophant, of bringing that authority inward, you being able to understand and contemplate. So the Hierophant is about learning, and through that learning is able to be able to express those perspectives to the community. But this for me feels that this is a time of contemplation. This is a time of going inward, focusing on your own inner divinity, your own inner guruhood. It's not about the exterior, it's very much about the interior, that there's a shift and a change of you being able to draw this wisdom, this and also Taurus as well. So it's the physical senses, how you feel in your body, and being able to be more comfortable with that and find the wisdom and the beauty in it. In the way that you work, this could be cultivating the way that you work and how you want to embody that, really being dedicated to studying and figuring out what works for you, with Saturn moving through there, that's going to serve you. Like, this is linked into the Pope, right? So book, religion, long-term tradition, right? You're establishing an internal tradition that is allowing you to be dedicated to yourself, be the adult in the room. We have shift in energy here, guys. So we have for the energy of the retrograde, of after the retrograde. And this is the Lovers and the King of Pentacles, along with the Sun and the Ace of Pentacles. So love that these Pentacles are coming up in the 6th house of work and health and routine, the 3D physical realm, and the sense of vitality and renewal that we've got coming up. The Lovers card, so having gone on this journey of introspection, the Lovers card is about choices, it's about crossroads, it's about integration. The more information that we have, it's Gemini, the more we are able to understand different dynamics, bring in different dynamics. The masculine, feminine, spirit are all in harmony with one another, and there's a mountain in the background which represents wisdom and a higher perspective. The Lovers card is about being able to make decisions that serve you in the long term. And it's coming with the King of Pentacles. So this is really representing legacy energy. The King of Pentacles, very loyal energy, very committed, very understanding of the actions that they need to take in order to create abundance in their life, of feeling good in the 3D realm, and being able to cultivate security, strength, structure, of feeling grounded in your work, feeling grounded in the way that you take care of yourself. Very, very adult in the room energy. And Pentacles is earth, it's the practical, it's the 3D reality, it's work, health, body, all of those things. So love that that card has come up for the 6th house, of really saying, okay, you've gone on a bit of a journey, you've gone on a spiritual journey, an inward spiritual journey, that of understanding how you need to be responsible to yourself, right? Arguably the Pope is responsible of what all the souls of Catholicism, and so you're turning that responsibility inward, of being dedicated to your internal nourishment, of being able to support and flourish, like far away from the sort of blockages that we have here. And we've got that with the Sun and the Page of Pentacles. The Sun is about vitality and joy, animation, a sense of like your divine spirit being able to shine itself really brightly, and finding joy in your work, finding joy in those routines and those health. And through that, your vitality comes through, right? Like, we so forget to take care of our physical health. And that is a fundamental thing that actually facilitates absolutely every area of your chart. For me, it's sleep and food. Get those two on good levels, the rest of it all just falls into place. We've got this with the Ace of Pentacles, renewal. This is for me new earth, and it's a very easy term to use to give reference to understanding of what I mean by that. So this is about embodying 5D energy on a 3D perspective, a whole new way of going through that portal to those mountains to access that higher perspective, of really a new way of engaging with your 3D reality, with work, with health, routines. There's a freshness, there's a vitality, there's a sense of a lightness coming in, and a confidence coming in with the way that you engage with your work, with your health and your routines. Love this, Libra. Okay. and starting a new journey with that direct motion. Saturn is going to go retrograde again. We'll deal with that at another level, but this is right at the early beginning part of Pisces, so it's really planting seeds in the very potent energy that we have at the beginning of signs. This sort of fresh raw energy of that Piscean energy of giving structure to that. There's a lot of structure here. There's a lot of finding structure in the magic and that deep compassion and empathy that Pisces has. So that might be a way in which you embody your work. And I just feel that there's a need to bring that inward in order to facilitate your health and how you embody yourself. So then you can give to others in that unconditional, compassionate, empathetic way of having Pisces in the sixth. I mean, that's just one way of looking at that Pisces energy, of being very able to see the light in the dark. Right, I'm going to pull some clarification cards. Oh, hello. This is the numerology deck. All the decks in the description box, as well as all the details of everything that I've just talked about in terms of dates and degrees and all the things. We've got the manifestation card. Hello. Hello. Yeah, there's a shift. There's a real sort of inner understanding of the connection to the creator energy that you have within you, that is facilitating your ability to, as I said, be that adult in the room and create the life that you want to lead. We've got healing and we've got service to others, but this definitely feels right. So there's some really conflicting, stuck energy there. Something needed to happen in order for you to get to this space of focusing on what you need to do in order to support yourself. You've been in service to your healing and your internal growth, and that may have been blocked from other people. As I said, Saturn can bring about authority from different spaces. That is being transmuted, and that healing is going inward. It can also be about you in the work that you do is helping heal others. Remember to heal yourself. Remember to make sure that you give from your cup, not from your saucer. Give from your saucer, not from your cup. Give from a space of abundance, and that energy then transfers to other people, rather than giving from a space of depletion. Finding inner peace within you, so your waters are overflowing. You know, you've got the Ace of Cups in that Four of Cups, and that is completely overflowing, and there's the Dove of Peace at the beginning of it. We've got the Past card. I want it to come up. So that sort of not feeling like you have enough to give, or and comparing, and that frustration that may have blocked and got in the way of your ability to enjoy the 3D world. That Four of Cups is very different from the Empress. The Empress wants you to enjoy your 3D world. She wants to be abundant and fertile and creative, and she is Venus. And that Four of Cups is really sort of is been shutting out that accessibility to you. Right, let's do one more from that was the When card. I don't like doing predictions that way because everybody's got different time frames. Okay, that deck's being funny. I'm going to do one more from here. That was the First Light Tarot, by the way. As I said, all the decks are in the description box. Yeah, with the retrograde, you're able to mark boundaries. You're able to be in more control of your environment and be able to say no to things in a way that's healthy and serving your long-term legacy. So that's what I'm kind of getting that energy from that. So there's been a bit of frustration and blockages that have disrupted that Empress energy. Creativity. So that is one of the energies of Venus, of there's your ability to tap into your routines and your health. That's what I'm getting more of finding, especially because it's Pisces, which is very mutable, very magical, of finding different ways of working with routines that really suit you, finding different ways of facilitating your health that are getting creative, and being able to feel joy as well in the work that you do moving forward. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, Libra. I hope this resonated. If it did, don't forget to hit the like button. There's lots of things that you can do to help push the algorithm, as this is a growing channel, and that would be appreciated. But other than that, be good to yourself, Libra. Be good to those around you, and most importantly, be well until we meet again.